Hi, thanks for tuning in to Jenny's Two Pennies. Actually, people don't tune in anymore because, that came from radio where you had a little tuner. But now you just type it. So thanks for typing in to Jenny's Two Pennies. Um, this is where I'm just going to give you my 2 cents worth of stuff. Hopefully, 2 cents here and 2 cents there will one day add up to be something meaningful. In the meantime, let's talk about 2 cents for today. Today, I'm going to talk about the gospel of Jesus Christ and why it's such good news. Um, so basically, Adam and Eve, Adam was created to rule over the earth, and um, he was given all the intelligence and everything he needed to be able to rule it well. God didn't give any regulations. He didn't tell him, here's what I want out of you. I expect you to do this. It was nothing like that. He made him. They related to each other. It was his creator, but it was his father, and there was no domination or anything like that. He just had one rule of don't eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, because if you do, then you'll die. And we know now he wasn't a physical death. But the thing is that I don't think they knew that. So when the serpent came and convinced Eve to eat from that tree, he basically was like, God's a liar. You're not going to die. You're going to be like God. And, it's going to be good. He just doesn't want you to know everything he knows. Well, obviously, she just was tricked. And the Bible says that um, she thought it was good to make her wise, and it looked delicious, basically. So she took a bite. Well, I mean, that was a big risk because she didn't know the consequence, but God said that they would die. So she obviously just did not believe what God said, and she believed the devil. But it was a lie. She ate it. She convinced Adam to eat it. And then basically a curse fell on all of mankind. And on the earth, the whole kingdom has become cursed. They died in the sense that they were broken from relationship with God. They were broken from that connection, that source of power. Um, just like God is three in one, we're made also a spirit, a soul, and a body. So our spirit, which is the thing that's connected to God, because spirit communicates with spirit. So God is connected to our spirit, and then our spirit tells our soul what to do, and our soul directs the body. That's a healthy way of life. That is what God created and intended. But what happened was we got cut off. The spirit got cut off from the source. So now you have a dead spirit. So that leaves the soul in the body without direction from God. So you still have the intellect, and you still have the physical prowess that God gave you. You have an amazing body and immune system and amazing capacity in your brain, and all that's still intact. So now, since the spirit has been broken from the source of power, then we don't have clear direction. So now, instead of internal direction, our direction seems to come externally. Our directions came, and instruction came externally. So, and also the roles were twisted all up in a lot of cases. So instead of our soul directing our body, that sometimes our body would direct everything, you know. and our passions and our desires, they would just rule what our thoughts and our intentions and our emotions were. Um, but then you also have, or you have the soul that directs the body. And yes, that can happen, but it's still external instructions. So that's why God had prophets. That's why he had to make a list of rules. That's why we're so affected by our circumstances, is because um, that's what we're born into. That all we have is the soul and the body. And when our circumstances aren't going well, it can cause us to freak out. And anyway, that's a curse. And it's a huge thing. It's a huge thing because God is the source of all life. So basically, the source was cut off, and we're just coasting along with the remnants, the residuals of what was there. And God, in his mercy, kept giving us instruction. And it wasn't long before we practically completely destroyed ourselves. And that was right before the flood. Things got so bad that the only way to save mankind was to get rid of most of them. So he just chose Noah and his family, and enough animals to replenish the earth. He flooded it and just killed everything else in it. And that was for a purpose, because otherwise we would have just killed ourselves off. Then was to keep a remnant at least alive until the fulfillment of when he was going to come and set everybody free. So then, even right after the flood, one of Noah's sons right away just started wreaking havoc. And then you have all kinds of stuff happen through history. And I encourage you to read the Bible because there's some pretty cool stories. And let me just tell you that the Bible is not a book where it's like, oh yeah, it's an instruction book for life. People will say that. I mean, and it's not that you can't get instruction out of it, but a lot of the instruction in the Bible is things that we should not do. Like, we should learn from the mistakes of those that went before us. And mostly it's to learn about God and how he was so merciful when so many people were just yucky, you know. And that's why sometimes people will say, well, you know, the Bible's the most violent book, and people are very critical of it. But I think it's because it's misrepresented. You know, we act like the Bible is just, I think it's people that haven't read it that say, oh, the Bible's just this wonderful book of instructions on how to live, right? But most of it is instructions on how not to live. I mean, it's examples of how we fail over and over and over, and how God just keeps finding ways to keep us around so that he can save us. Because when Jesus actually did come, okay, no, I won't go there yet. So anyway, so generations and generations and generations passed, and there were kings, and there was prophecies, and there was prophets, and so much happened. But then finally, Jesus was born, and God came down, and he became a man. He left all the glory of heaven. He left everybody bowing down to him and praising him, and came down. Became a little baby who was told what to do at every turn. And he was humble, and he was gracious, and he healed people. And but ultimately, the reason he came was to pay for our sin. And the thing is that I always thought like he just took my place, you know. And yeah, that's like, you know, you basically, I deserve to die for my sin, and you died in my place. But yeah, man, it was way bigger, because he actually took all the sin of the whole world for all generations past, present, and future, everyone. He took all of the sin on himself. So, and the sin and the wickedness is not just what you do wrong, it's a result in so many cases, the way that we feel, it's what everybody does wrong. So, if your parents abused you, say, then that's created something yucky inside of you because they caused you pain. So that was their sin. And then you've committed sins where you've hurt other people, or you've done things that hurt yourself, or, the definition of sin is like to miss the mark. So and some sin is not even on purpose. We just do things that are, we don't know any better because we don't even know what the mark is anymore. It's too much. It's too much information, and it's external. And Moses passed down 600 and something laws and 10 commandments. That is too much. Who could do it? Who could even remember it? So clearly, sin is going to just happen because you can't even know all the time. But even if you don't know what you're doing is wrong, it could still have negative effects on yourself and on the people you love and on generations to come. And who knows? Only God knows how deep all that goes. But because he knew that, he came and he took it all on himself. And he died a horrific death, where he was humiliated and spit on. And I am pretty sure he was naked on there, or pretty close to. And they made fun of him while he was dying. Yeah, just the thought of it. But that wasn't even the worst part, because even after that, he had never known sin. And that's hard for us to comprehend, but he never sinned. So he never did anything wrong. So he didn't know the pain, because when we do stuff and when we take on stuff that's even other people's stuff, sometimes it causes bitterness and sorrow and anxiety and all kinds of yucky stuff inside us that he didn't have. And so then all at once, even after getting beaten, after getting nailed to wood and suffocating and being spit on and being made fun of, after all that, then he had to feel all the anxiety and all of the pain and all of the yuckiness that we experience every day because of our own sin and because of the curse of Adam. And he took it and he died in our place. But the amazing part is that he literally took it to his death and he left it there in the grave. And then he rose up without it. And that's how the curse got broken. All the sin and all of the yuck and all of the disobedience and everything. And all the results of it. And the whole curse, that was the result. All of it gone and buried. And then he rose from the dead as something brand new, in glory, with no yuck attached. And so it was bigger than him just saying, okay, I'll die in your place. It was huge what he did. He broke the curse over all mankind. The thing is that we don't all get the word. And sometimes we don't believe it. Just like if it was a real king, it is a real kingdom, but if it was, just say this fairy tale kingdom that I'm going to just tell you about right now. Like say there was this king and, say this evil king took over the whole kingdom. And then all of a sudden, the good king came back, but then you have all these people like in the outskirts that never got the word. They never knew. And then all of the evil king's little minions will go around just lying to people, you know, saying, well, yeah, there might be a new king, but, he's not any better than the old king. Or, some people just didn't believe it because they believed lies. Some people never got the word that they were free, you know. Um, and not only did he just come to, he didn't just break the curse and then now you have a new ruler. Now it's more like the king added to the castle so that everybody could come in and live as royalty. You know, it's it's big. So say that the people who did believe it, who did get the word, they got to come into the castle. And but when they showed up, they were filthy. They were used to begging for their food because the evil king that had ruled for so many generations stole everything from the people. Every time they did anything good, he stole it. Anytime they grew crops, he took it and left them with just remnants to go, to scrounge through. They were filthy. They were used to begging and working so hard for very little results. They were used to the ruler stealing from them, So even when they got there, they had to kind of relearn everything because um, they didn't know how to be royalty. They didn't know how to be children of the king. All they knew was how to be oppressed by a king. So they had to, over time, learn the goodness of the king. He showed them how good he was, and they learned how to eat with forks and silverware instead of their hands. And they got all washed. The first thing that happens, they got all washed up and washed clean and given good, wonderful, comfortable, clean clothes. And they were brought into the shelter where they weren't exposed to all the yucky elements. And that's what Christ did for us. He brought us in to be part of the family of God, to to be not inheritors, that's not even a word, but to receive the inheritance of the king, which is all good things and all riches. But we were able to inherit that. But the thing is, when we first come, we don't know what to do. We think we have to do something. Oh, now you're in the castle, so what are you going to do for the king? That's not how it works. And you don't do something for the king to get invited. He invited everybody. So there's literally nothing you have to do but learn, and you have to realize that what you came in with can't stay. You can't, if you're living in the castle, you no longer have to take bread from somebody else, or you don't have to keep a knife under your pillow because you're protected by a whole army that belongs to the king. And the king's all powerful. Like, you don't have to worry anymore about if someone's going to break into your house, or you don't have to worry, like before you were living in the fortress, and I think that a lot of times we just don't realize, like, he wants to make us, he doesn't want to change who we are. He just wants to show us how to live as children of a king. And that doesn't mean living better than anybody, because we didn't do anything to get there. And we weren't born into it either. He saved us. He allowed us to come and be part of his family. Because, he could have, he has the power to just be done with us. We could have all died before the flood, And he wouldn't have even had to do it. That's the thing. The flood was a thing. It was a thing that he did of mercy, because otherwise we would have just killed each other off. It would have been over long ago. I mean, we wouldn't have been born. Anyone who's watching this now, we wouldn't exist. So I exist because of the flood, which is weird to think about. But anyway, so there you have it. He set us free. And if you never got the word before, that he's good and he set us free, and that there's only one way to really know how good he is, and that's to say yes, to believe it, to walk into the gates of the castle, and then get spoiled a little and learn also how to live as a child of God, as royalty. And yeah, royalty does come with responsibility. All good things come with responsibility, but it's not anything we can't handle, because we were created in the image of God, and we have all the intelligence, and we have all of the heart and soul to do everything. And now our spirit's been reconnected. I totally skipped that part before. We just I mean, if you're listening to this, you've got the word now that the curse was broken and we're set free. It isn't because we followed all the rules. The rules were only made as a temporary thing until he could come and set us free. And now we don't need to worry about rules, because it's not external anymore. Because now, after he broke the curse, he made it to where we can be once again connected to God. But he is not going to force himself on us. So all we have to do is ask, hey, I heard that I can be connected to you now. And I heard that I can have all the riches of the King of all kings. And I heard that all of my sorrow and all of my sin was taken away. And I want to experience how that plays out in my life. So if it's true, I want to come. I want to come to the castle, and I want to live with you. And I want to learn how to be a child of God. And then as soon as you ask, he goes, boop, okay, reconnected. And then you learn, and then you grow, and then you have power, and you're washed clean. And someone like me, that's really, really good news. I hope that it's been an encouragement to you too. And I just wanted to share it. I think just some things are worth repeating because they're so good. So have a great day. I love you.